Okay, feel free to take it away, Jolene.
Sure. Well, welcome to everybody to Cultivating Community around your seed library. We're really excited to host this webinar today, and we're really grateful for funding from the New Horizons for Seniors program. It's great to see people on the call who have been part of that for the last couple of years. We'll talk a bit more about that, I think, but yeah, just trying to, there's so much work being done by seniors in seed libraries. So this is such a great way to support that work. And I'm really glad we've been able to host this webinar to bring so many more people together into these conversations. Before we get going, we just like to do a seed acknowledgement, kind of like a land acknowledgement, because seeds, like land, were never seeded. And when we're working with seeds, we're constantly thinking about our relationships with them and the stories behind them, which are so much more complex and nuanced than we realize the more we do our seed work. And so just looking at the past stewards of seeds and the relationships that have held through generations. And in this kind of current time with so much happening in the world, I find my work with seeds really grounding, and it gives me kind of something to like hold on to. Um, the seeds, that they hold so many stories, and they also have a lot of hope for the future. So just a reminder to nurture the relationships with our food and our seeds for ourselves and for the future generations. And we just wanted to kind of set the space. We'll have a couple breakout rooms today, so just a reminder to leave space and give grace, and we'll share these as we get into the breakouts, or feel free to kind of read through. We'll pop them into the chat as well. I guess a little bit of housekeeping too, like feel free to pop questions in the chat. We'll try to get to them. We'll leave space at the end for more questions. Today, our focus really is on talking about cultivating community within your seed library. There's so many resources out there for starting seed libraries, and we'll share those as well. So if something doesn't get covered today that you're hoping to learn, it might already be out there. So we'll try to direct you to some of those resources. And yeah, we really hope we can start some good conversations today and keep building our seed library networks.
Yeah, we just wanted to draw your attention to part of our website. If you're not already on it, many of you are, but we do have a directory of seed libraries in our region. So there's the little orange button, shows you what it looks like on the website, and you just fill in the form, and we'll add your library to the map. We also, very strongly connected, have CD Saturdays and Sundays listings, which many of you are involved with. So again, if you haven't added it, I may have already scooped it from Seeds of Diversity, but if not, let us know we are doing an event and we'll advertise.
Great. So we also just wanted to mention there were a lot of people that registered for the webinar today, like 150, 160 people or so. We do have sort of a focus today, which is going to be talking a little bit about this interlibrary seed exchange and how different libraries can share seeds. And then mostly we've got Michelina Hunter here from Cicada Seeds to share some knowledge around engagement with your community around seeds and how to help leverage them to support your seed library. There were a lot of people that in the registration form for this were looking for, information again on how to start a seed library, and we will follow up with lots of information about that, but this webinar will be mostly about these two other things. So we just wanted to mention this interlibrary seed exchange it's something that Farm Folk City Folk that we've sort of started last year. Um, we admittedly are fumbling through this, and we're just trying to figure out if there's a way for seed libraries to help share seeds amongst themselves. So this isn't like a interlibrary loan where one user takes out a packet of seed from a distant seed library. This is more a way for seed libraries at the beginning of the year to get bulk amounts of seeds to distribute within their library. And it's also hopefully a way for us to eventually sort of keep track of the seeds that we're actually stewarding through the library. So if there's a special variety that you're growing at your seed library that you think um, needs to be maintained, if it's rare or not offered somewhere else, this is a great way to get more of those seeds out there so that there's other libraries looking after them as well. There's been horrific stories in the past of seed banks, being destroyed in a fire or flood, and all of their seeds are lost. And if you have your seeds duplicated somewhere else or through another seed library, it's a really great way to make sure those seeds can continue being stewarded. So, um, admittedly, it's not the easiest user-friendly mechanism. This isn't like a site you go to and just order seeds like you would off of a catalog, but it's more a member list. So there's two steps to it. You go to a Google form. We will be sharing out these slides with links after the webinar so people can check it out, but you should have gotten it in the registration. You go to the Google form, you fill out the seeds that you have on offer, and then they populate a responses spreadsheet that everybody can have access to. And then you look through those responses and you reach out directly to the person who's offering the seeds. On the first tab of the responses spreadsheet, there are instructions about how the process of how to use the sheet. And you don't have to be offering seeds in order to request seeds. We just wanted to put that out there. We would love to get this used. We know that seed libraries are at this time of year, you're probably some of you are purchasing seeds for your libraries, and this is a great way for you to get seeds for your library from another seed library and not even have to pay for it. Farm Folk City Folk is even willing to reimburse for shipping costs. So all of that information is in the spreadsheet. And I think with that, we're going to start our first breakout room group. And I'll just invite you. These are sort of the questions. I'm not sure if somebody can plop those in the chat for everybody, maybe. These are some prompts, and we're going to break into, let's see, how many people do we have here? 50 people. So we're going to do, how many people did we want per breakout room? So we want about 10 breakout rooms. Okay, so we'll do 10 breakout rooms, and you guys will all be dispersed.
This is just because there's so many people here today. We just want to give a chance to see who's in the room and give everyone an opportunity to connect with each other. And in light of this seed exchange, keeping in mind varieties that you might be stewarding already, or that would be a good variety for your seed library to steward, something that's saved from someone locally, a unique variety to your region. Our idea behind this isn't that we populate this list with a billion different seeds. It's to be mindful of, like, maybe if each seed library had one to three seeds that they were stewarding, and we created that network, we'd protect a lot of diversity in our food system and seed system.
Yeah, thanks so much for that context, Joe. And if somebody in the group wants to identify themselves as a note taker, whether you scribble it down or just remember it in your head, so when we come back to the main room again, you can just plop your notes or any questions or anything that came up in the conversation in the chat in the main room, and then we'll be able to share that out with people later on. So I am going to start the breakout rooms, and you should all be dispersed into one of 10 rooms.
Okay, that was a fun breakout room. Um, Thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's just nice to actually connect with everyone on a little more personal level, even in such a large group and being virtual. Um, but yeah, we're excited to hand it over to Mickey to talk about just her experience around cultivating community and her background in seeds. She's done a lot of great seed work, and I'll let her kind of tell you a bit more about that. Is there any other? Oh yeah, and then
Maybe,
before we forget, into the chat, feel free to pop in varieties and that came up during your discussions, unique varieties that a library might be stewarding, anything that kind of came up. If someone from the group wants to share that in the chat, we'd really appreciate seeing that, seeing what was happening in the other rooms.
and then we can hand it over to Mickey.
Great. Thank you. I'm so curious to see what people report back. So please keep those coming in the chat. All right. Thanks so much for having me, Farm Folk, City Folk team. And I'm so happy to see a few folks and names I recognize in the audience. So, and a bunch of new folks too. So thank you so much for coming. Yeah, I think next slide, David, please. Great. Okay, so I'll just briefly go over what I'm going to cover in this presentation. So I'll introduce myself. I'll talk about some basic communications for seed libraries. We'll briefly touch on websites, newsletter, Facebook, other social media and media channels, leveraging existing community networks, events like orientations and open houses, and a little bit on seed returns, which I think might be the hot topic of the day. All these photos are mine unless otherwise specified, and there's a lot of pretty photos of beans. So if you ever get bored, just enjoy the beans. Next, please. So a bit about me. I grew up saving seeds with my mom on the Sunshine Coast. She has a small seed company called Dragonfly Seeds. And that was a great foundation into the worlds of growing food and seed. I moved to Squamish for school, and I started the Squamish Seed Library and Seedy Saturday around 2017. It might have been 2018 when that stuff actually launched. And then I moved to the island and I started Cicada Seeds in 2021, specializing in perennial vegetable seeds. And I learned about community engagement through various grassroots organizing over the years, running my own small businesses, and working with some nonprofits over the years as well. This is where I'm located. I'm growing seeds in Arrington, unceded Comox, Qualicum, and Snanawas lands. I'm in the Qualuch or Englishman River watershed. The falls are right by my place. Well, little drive away, but it's a beautiful spot. And I'm in the foothills of Tsulikwa, which is also called Mount Arrowsmith. Next, please. Great. So if you only did two things to promote your seed library, I'd recommend these. So number one, a website of some kind, either a page on another organization's website or your own basic website. Doesn't need to be fancy. And the purpose of this is just to house basic info about your seed library, like where you are, how people can get involved, some contact info. And then the other thing that I'd recommend is to have a newsletter list so that you can contact people. Email is a great way to get in touch with people. It's a lot more reliable in a lot of ways than social media. So those are my two big recommendations. I'll get into those shortly. Next, please. So having a website can lend credibility to your seed library and can therefore increase usership. It does not need to be fancy or expensive. There are free versions of website platforms like Wix, Weebly, and WordPress. They will often have the free versions will have a little banner or sometimes some ads, but you can always upgrade to a paid website later to get rid of that stuff. And better yet, if there's a local organization you're working under or could partner with that already has a website, maybe they could host a page for your seed library on their website that they're already managing and paying for. That's what I'd recommend if it works. And on your page or your website, you should include your library location, basic instructions for how to use it or get involved, and some contact info if people have questions, a phone number or an email address. These things are optional, but they're great additions. You could also add photos of seeds or the seed library or people using the seed library, various seed saving resources, funder acknowledgements, and stuff like that. Squamish Can does a great job of their seed library page. It's got tons of beautiful photos. It's just a joy to look through their page. So I'd recommend taking a look at that too. There's Mary-Ev, the coordinator, in that photo I grabbed. Next, please. So now a little bit about newsletters. So as I said, in my opinion, it's like the best way to reach people online. On social media, there's so much competing content on there, and a newsletter just goes directly to their inbox, and your info is much more likely to be seen. I recommend MailChimp as a platform. It's quite intuitive to use, and it's cheap or free to get started with. Once you get over a certain number of subscribers, you usually need to pay, but their rates are pretty reasonable and I think worth it. There are other mail platforms or newsletter platforms out there that I don't really have much experience with, but I've used MailChimp for many years, and in general, I like it. It's also very easy to add a sign up form that MailChimp creates to your website, or just, yeah, you don't even need to have a website to start collecting mails with MailChimp. They will make a page for you. Really easy to do. And I also recommend bringing a printed sign up sheet to every event you go to. Like if you're doing an outreach day at the farmer's market or doing a workshop somewhere, just print out a little form that asks for people's names and email addresses, and then you can upload them when you get home. And I recommend starting to collect emails, even if your seed library isn't quite ready to start sending out communications. Yeah, there's no harm in getting started now. It's just so valuable to have a direct way to contact people. And best practices for newsletters, ideally you send them on a regular schedule, for example, monthly, but do whatever works for you. And absolutely take seasonal breaks over the winter holidays or the summer holidays if you need to. Don't stress about consistency if sending newsletters regularly seems overwhelming. Just do what you can. Some emails are better than none, and don't let perfection stop you from getting started. Oh, I forgot to mention too, Farm Folk team or anyone else, feel free to pop questions in the chat. And if there's clarifying questions that come up, feel free to throw them at me as we go. There will also be a longer question period at the end. Okay, so Facebook can be a very good way to reach people for free. You don't need to make ads or do anything fancy on there. I would recommend setting up your own presence of some sort, either a page or a group. I've seen both being used successfully by different seed libraries. I'll go into which ones might be best for your organization. But in general, pages are more for one-way communication, and groups are more collaborative, discussion-based. So Facebook pages, they have a great, easy to find placeholder for basic info, like your seed library's website if you have it, address, contact info. You could post updates as needed anytime. I would say pages are better for setting and forgetting if you need to. If you're not sure if you're going to have capacity to put a lot on Facebook, a page is a good way to go. The downside is the Facebook algorithm is always changing. Basically, the algorithm means like what the Facebook software or platform is promoting to people who are using Facebook. And this changes over the years. But right now, Facebook doesn't seem to be promoting pages to people in your community. So you'll probably need to do a little bit of extra work at the beginning to get your page out there to people. Next. Facebook groups, on the other hand, are much better for facilitating dialogue. So if you're looking to get conversations going, people talking about seeds, troubleshooting things, groups might be a good way to go. You can put basic info about your seed library in the about section of the group, but it's really easy for people to miss them. I really loved what Gone to Seed Little Library did, and they put their address right in the cover photo of the group, so you can't miss it. And that's really the essential piece of info that people need to know to use the library. Just as with Facebook pages, groups, you can post updates whenever you want, whenever you need. I would say that groups often require a bit more frequent maintenance to monitor conversations and to vet members who want to join. Yeah, it's good. It's a good idea just to make sure the conversations are respectful and going in the direction you want. There's not always that many issues for smaller groups, but it can get a bit more unruly as more people join. As your group gets started, it can require a lot of time to initiate dialogue, essentially posting questions or topics for people to talk about. And so I would say it's best for folks who are familiar with Facebook and like spending time on there and want to be a conversation starter. So see whatever category you fall into. Next. That being said, you can leverage Facebook without having a page or group for your seed library. So you just need a personal Facebook account, and you can post in local Facebook groups, such as gardening groups, buy and sell groups, various event groups for your community, or bulletin boards. And you can post about seed library events or news or trying to increase membership, really whatever you like. And this is one of the best ways I found to promote any kind of community initiative for free, just to get the word out to people in a grassroots way. Next. And this is how I find Facebook groups that are local to your area. So in the search field at the beginning of Facebook, just search for your town name, or if a region is more appropriate, you can just play around with what works best. And then you can filter the search results to just be showing groups on the left. So search and then click groups. And there'll be a button on the right side of each group listing where you can join. You might need to answer a few questions in order to get approved to join the group. But it's a great way to find local discussions that are happening. And you can repeat for your region or neighboring towns if it's appropriate. Every community's geography will be a bit different. And then the one thing I will say about that too is make sure to abide by the group rules, which you can find usually in the About section of each group. It's usually, there's sometimes limits like, oh, limit self-promotion posts or things like that. Usually there's a bit of leeway for community initiatives, but yeah, it might require a little bit of trial and error. You can always message the admins too to ask if your post topic is appropriate. But yeah, I love Facebook groups for this purpose. I think they're great. In terms of other social media, you could consider other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. The pros are that these platforms can help reach different demographics. I will say that Facebook, there are all ages on there, but it does skew to a slightly older audience, whereas other platforms might be younger. But it really depends on your community. And I think it's a great place to start with anyway. The cons with other platforms are it can be harder to reach local people. The algorithms on these platforms don't always target folks in your community. So it can require considerable time and technical knowledge to grow to reach the right people. The last slide too, the Penticton Seed Library, they do a really great job of their Instagram page. I included a little a little screenshot there, but they've got they post about news and if they're looking for envelope donations and seed donations. So definitely check that out for a good example. And then a few other media ideas that you could try are local radio, newspapers, magazines, or coffee news, if your community has those, and even posters on local bulletin boards, like at the post office or the feed store, anywhere gardeners are hanging out, really. And just try different tactics to see what works in your community. Um, you're always going to reach a different demographic with each platform that you try. So just play around and see what works. Another technique that I like to use is to piggyback on existing community networks. So you could ask to present to local garden clubs, farmers institutes, that kind of thing, groups with a lot of gardeners, and just chat about your seed library, let people know what you're up to, how they can get involved. You can also, if you're a bit more shy and don't want to present, you could ask to have a write-up in their newsletters or their social media. And you'll have a much better chance of getting in if you can supply a little blurb and ideally a photo. That goes a long way in helping the communications person, whether they're a volunteer or staff, to make it easy to share that stuff out. And I was chatting with Joe about this, but master gardeners seem to be particularly great allies for seed libraries. I think they're just the perfect gardener demographic. They're really into it. They're into learning about new facets that can take their gardening to the next level. And they can be really dedicated, amazing connections. So definitely try to make connections with your local group if there is one. I know when I managed a Squamish seed library, one of our best, our most engaged members and someone who returned the most seeds was a master gardener. So she was awesome. And then a few other event ideas you could consider. You could consider hosting this as your seed library or with another organization. And the goal is just to get people interacting with and curious about seeds. In my mind, that's the goal anyway. So you could host some garden tours or seed farm tours if there's any local seed growers in your community. You could host potlucks, ideally in someone's garden. You could host workshops about seed saving, beginner or advanced, or any other related workshops you can think of. It's also great to put people to work, and people love helping most of the time. So you could host a seed cleaning and packaging party, whatever is seasonal and you need help with. You could also have presentations from local authors or farmers about seeds or just gardening in general. And you could also consider having a pop-up event at your local CD Saturday or a farmer's market. You could just do kind of an outreach booth kind of situation, or you could bring some seeds, like a mini seed library, or maybe your whole seed library, and people can check out seeds and become a member right there. And remember to bring your printed newsletter sign-up sheets to every event you have. Orientations or open houses are also a really great way to get people engaged with libraries. So the goal is just to get people on site, empower them to feel comfortable using the library, because some people can be a little bit daunted when they don't totally know all the rules, and empower them to save their own seeds to return back to the library. So this was something I did in Squamish, and I just hosted regular orientations of the seed library from fall to spring. They weren't super regular. I think I tried to do every 2 weeks in key times of year, like fall and spring. And they were really casual. They were really short. I tried to keep it under 30 minutes religiously, just so folks didn't have to take a whole chunk out of their day. And I just included basic info about how the library works, some basic info about seed saving, like selfers versus crossers, and the easy seeds to save. And I could just answer questions from people right there. Sometimes I think I went into a little bit too much info and would potentially overwhelm people. So if you're ever worried about that, at the end of every orientation, I would always say, okay, that was a lot of info. If that's overwhelming, just remember tomatoes, lettuce, beans, and pea seeds, you don't really have to worry about crossing for the most part. So feel comfortable to submit those to the library. Um, or if folks want to return other types of seeds, feel free to label them if you think they might have crossed. Um, yeah, I think I also was a bit more militant about keeping varieties true and making sure they weren't crossed. But now that I've been doing this for a while, I'm kind of like, oh, goody, crossed up seeds that could there could be some funky stuff in there, or could be the beginning of a new breeding project or variety. So it's really up to you how you want to structure seed returns and how strict you want to be about it. But I think my philosophy now is just like encourage everybody to be involved no matter where they are um, in their knowledge base. So a little bit more about seed returns. So it's great to offer education in a variety of different formats. So workshops or demos or pamphlets. You can include seed saving info and resources on your website. And again, empower members to start with the easy crops. And it can be a great idea to use your outreach channels that you've set up, your Facebook pages or newsletters, to share reminders for folks throughout the season and keep the seed library top of mind. So say, like, oh, as in the spring, you could send a newsletter out that says, as you're planting your garden, please keep the seed library in mind. You could consider isolation distances for crops in your garden, or plant a little bit extra where you can allow crops to go to seed and then bring some back to the library, and just kind of post seasonal reminders throughout the year. I learned about an amazing farmer seed return program that Stewardship Pemberton Society runs. Nikki Lax told us about it at the last seed gathering in the fall. If she's on the call, maybe she could say more, but I'll just outline it. I'll do a basic outline. Essentially, um, a, a market gardener in Pemberton, say they're growing a row of arugula. Once they're done harvesting arugula for their like salad mixes or whatever they're using it for, they will call up Stewardship Pemberton Society and say like, hey, I'm done with this row of arugula. You guys can come in and manage it for seed production for the rest of the season. So Stewardship Pemberton Society will bring in groups of volunteers throughout the season. They will basically take over stewarding that crop, and they will do the weeding, they will thin it out if needed, and they will collect seed as it matures throughout the season. And I just thought that was such a cool idea, and I think that could potentially be applied to lots of different communities. So we're going to pop into another breakout session about engagement tactics, and then we'll move into questions afterwards. I think we're going to split up into groups of 5 again, and another just 10-minute slot. And the prompts for this round are: what engagement tactics have worked for you? Could be anything I covered in this presentation or otherwise. And what tactics are you excited to try next? So what has worked for you and what are you excited to try? And then we'll share highlights in the chat after. I think we could just do popcorn style. If you have something to add into the chat, just pop it in when you return. Folks returning, feel free to share your highlights from your discussion in the chat. Engagement tactics that you've tried and loved, or tactics that you're excited to try next. I'll just read out a few that came in during the presentation that I just loved.
Sorry, Mary, just before you do, I think because we're all back now, I'm just going to stop sharing. And so we'll all be in the main room for a Q&A and for Mickey to talk to some of the questions. But just if you don't want to be on screen for that part, feel free to turn your camera off. I'm going to stop sharing the slides now.
Great. Thanks, David. Okay, I'll just read out a few cool ideas I saw come in. So Sherry Taylor or Sherry Ann Taylor said we are offering a spring tea to our community. Part of the festivities is having a couple of the garden club members do explanatory sessions on seed saving and soil blocking, as well as offering starter plants. I think that's a great idea. And Kyla said that she did a pop-up at her community CD Saturday, and also brought her gumball machine and put seeds in it, and people could spin it for free to get seeds and make origami envelope to take the seeds home. That is so fun. And then one more from Eden that I wanted to read out too is Eden created a seeds and snacks event and have been inviting people to come use our equipment to clean seed that was saved at the community food center and share some snacks. So far, there's been good engagement and we've been able to get a lot of work done. So definitely read through people's responses, and I think we'll try to send out a transcript of the chat after the session as well. Does anybody want to either unmute and speak about that session, or we can just move right into Q&A for my presentation? Feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you. I think Joe's going to help with that potentially, or just unmute and chat, or put your question in the chat box. Or I can just keep reading out fun ideas that people have done.
I think a challenge that came up in our session was, well, one interesting one was the Kwantlen Seed Library being spread out across many campuses and trying to set things up to connect each other, and also, but how it didn't work with the library. Maybe Melissa could speak a bit more to that, like how it's going to work. They weren't able to use the Seed Library catalog, but they have a way of kind of connecting the campuses to share seeds, or it's in the works. It kind of sounds similar to the challenge that we might face with our interlibrary seed exchange. I think having seeds is one thing, but then actually distributing them and shipping them, getting them places is another barrier. And yes, you can put seeds in the mail, that and often you can fit seeds in letter mail.
Really keeps the cost down. I'm curious if anyone chatted about in this breakout, or if they just have any tactics to share about seed returns. Like, what has worked to empower people to return seed to your seed library? I know that's often the trickiest thing about running a seed library, so I'd love to hear folks' ideas. I think go ahead, Eden. It's my first hand I saw.
Harassment goes a long way. So I pester the people I know who save seed, like personally. I've got a couple friends who are flower farmers and a lot of friends who are vegetable farmers. So kind of like right now I'm working on a blurb. I work with the farmers market coordinator locally. He also works at the food center. So we're going to put a blurb together and we're going to send it out with kind of registration for the beginning of the year. So anyone who has seed or is interested in participating in grow outs can contact me, and then I will have about 5 varieties and a couple like land races and grasses that people can choose from that if they want to do grow outs from that, I'll provide the seed for them. Otherwise, they're also welcome to just do a grow out of a variety that they think would be utilized in the community or something that they would utilize themselves. Also, if you're looking for, like, obviously there's issues with biennial crops, like trying to grow those because you need to store them over the winter. I found also pestering the farmers about that. So like I'll be like, hey, what storage onions do you have left? And then they'll give me just like a bag of older onions that probably wouldn't be great for sale anyways because it's like March and they're kind of drying out. But I can take them here, I can plant them and get that biennial seed crop without having to worry about overwintering onions. So I'm just like, you deal with it in your cold storage and then I reap the benefits. So that's been pretty successful. Um, yeah, and then just like really, just honestly pestering people has been a really, a really good tactic. And sometimes it's even that people are just like, oh, it's just been sitting in my basement. I haven't dealt with it. And I'm like, well, even if it's not clean, just bring it to me and we'll deal with it because we've had these events to encourage people to bring them back. So I don't know, that's been successful for me. Obviously, I have a land base to work with, so it's been easier for us to save larger quantities of seed. So I can totally acknowledge. I also don't do individual packets, we do all bulk. So our seed is just like in jars on shelving, and then people would take kind of like there's guidelines around how much seed that they can access. How much would you use in a season? This is a little, this is a lot. And I don't even germ test my seed. I just kind of like, it's a free for all. The jars are really well labeled and there's lots of like kind of postering around like, please be understanding that this is community seed. It could have variances, but that could create something that's better for our community. So those are kind of like, that's kind of how we run it and some of those tactics that have been working for us.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I do have one follow-up question for you. How are you pestering people? Are you like email, text message, phone call, go into their house?
All three: show up their house, go to the farmers market, go to the local restaurants they frequent. Do I know their kids? Honestly, just like everything. A lot of people like are people that I just know personally through different events. I mean, it kind of depends on where you're living, but Kamloops is like a big small town, so it's quite like you kind of end up knowing everybody. So even sometimes I'll literally just go down to the farmers market and then you start having conversations with people there, and it kind of builds off of that. And just like really, yeah, I think I just like kind of just talk it up a lot. And then there's always somebody who's like, oh, my mom saves seeds and she never knew that that even existed. And then all of a sudden I've got somebody who's been saving seeds for 20 years or more who's bringing me in a pile of stuff. I had a guy this year who's been bringing me in all these different isolated like squash and pumpkin varieties that he's been playing around with. And he's like, I've just been doing this for fun. I didn't know that anyone else was like into it. And I was like, well, like he wouldn't have known if I hadn't kind of like disseminated through the community and put all those posters up and just like really promoted it through local networks and like Facebook groups and stuff like that. So it's a little bit mishmash spread out and it doesn't always work, but for the most part it's been fairly successful, but it does take a lot of overhead work on my behalf, like really, you know, texting Steve and being like, hey dude, I know you got stuff. What can I have? That's been our strategy so far.
That's awesome. Thank you. That is so much dedication. That is amazing. But I hope that's inspiring for some other folks. Um, I think maybe Irene, I'm not sure if I saw your hand up briefly. Do you want to go?
No. Oh, there it goes. Yes. One way we did saving seeds last year was we did a project. We saved 2 types of lettuce seed. And we started a bunch of starts and we handed them out in the community and people signed them out. And they signed them out because we had a draw for a couples massage for 2. And about 99 people of the community took seeds or starters home. And about 19 people returned. And once they returned, they were put in the draw and then we had a winner. And we had a sponsor partly by the Seed Saving Collective and a sponsor, half sponsor from the actual massage place. And we're doing another one this year, but we don't know what the prize will be yet with peas.
That's amazing. That's such a creative idea. I love that.
Yeah. So, and we put it in the newspaper and as well as putting it on Facebook and things. So publicizing it. And thank you, Mikhail. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, me too. Anyone else? Feel free to unmute.
I just noticed one comment in the chat, and I think this is probably something a lot of seed libraries do. I think somebody mentioned, was it Jack, that you find it easy to get donations from garden centers. Well, we like let people know is, especially if there's people here starting a seed library, it's really easy to get a lot of seeds in your seed library. It's really hard to maintain a lot of seeds in your seed library. Sometimes the seeds you get from garden centers, you don't really know where they're grown or who grew them. And, it's a great service to offer seeds to people in your community, but we think of this, the role of a seed library is like stewarding sort of local and special seeds. um, Totally no problem giving out seeds, but it might be good to let people know that these are seeds that weren't stewarded in the community. They're seeds for people to grow for food rather than necessarily to return, and some of those seeds might even be hybrid. So great idea to get free seeds, but we're really part of our reason for trying to do the interseed library exchange is so that we can supply each other with good quality local seeds rather than getting donated seeds from the garden center, which again, nothing wrong with that, but it really, from an educational perspective, it's really great to let the people know what they're taking out from the seed library.
If I could just quickly add to that as well, like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. I think, yeah, with seed libraries, that's kind of the whole benefit is that it's local seeds and specific to this geography. I found a lot of the times with bigger companies of seeds, what tends to happen in garden centers is that those seeds, for the seed companies will take them back the seeds, but it's often the local seeds that often get thrown out, unfortunately, because those seeds companies don't really have the resources to buy them back. And so what I've really been noticing actually is that it's often more times local seeds, fortunately, that we end up getting. And then for my seed library in particular, I'm just trying to actually like have the seed packages displays that they know exactly. But yeah, to your point, David, that's a really good point and something that I'll keep in mind is making sure people know where they're coming from.
That's great to hear that you're able to know that they're local seeds too at the and not great to know that the local seeds get thrown out, but I understand, yeah, the challenge of maintaining those racks. Yeah, nothing wrong again with like giving seeds away to the community, but there is a difference between, yeah, I just wanted to bring up stewarding and supplying seeds.
We found that whether it's through the seed bank or CD Saturday seeds that we sell to the community, having seeds in envelopes uh, and in small quantities. Most of the people that take seeds are doing just home gardening. They don't need a teaspoon of lettuce seeds. We put 10, 15 seeds in each package. Most of them have been germination tested, so we know they're pretty good. And they're sold at a really low cost, so it covers the cost of the envelope and the packaging. But that way you can, even though you might have been having difficulties in retrieving seeds, at least you're managing the output. And that way you can stretch what you have. Because I think if you just leave a jar with a teaspoon in it, people will take a teaspoon. Because most people really don't know how to manage, or they don't know exactly how many seeds you need to do something with anyways, especially beginner gardeners.
It's a really good point. Thank you. I think we have a few more minutes. If anyone else wants to chime in, please do.
There was a question in the chat just around labeling seeds or holding the label with the seeds as it goes. And I noticed someone commented about just like having sticker, I guess kind of like a sticker or pre-made label that really helps people fill out that information when they're filling their own seeds. And it's a really good point about the volume of seeds. There's so many seeds that you really don't need very much from. And it's hard to let people fill their own seed packets. Definitely helpful to have them all pre-enveloped. But yeah, I don't know if you have any other thoughts around labeling or
I know what we did in Squamish. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but we got a stamp made for our little coin envelopes and we let people fill their own packets back in the day. And the stamp just had like lines and prompts, basically like variety name, species if you knew it, where it was grown, all that kind of stuff. So to prompt people. But we also tried to say, like, if you don't know or like have trouble filling everything out, like, don't worry about it, but just do your best.
I can speak to that, Nikki. The stamp is still there. I'll say I don't see a lot of different employees using it. People often said that it was just a bit too small, the lines and the information to write on it. So after a while, I put just an 8.5 by 11 sheet on top of the unit where people will get the seeds, just to remind them, like in big letters, variety name, location, year, the main stuff, and I could just label, and make space for the information. So trying to encourage people to put the minimum information, but the stamp is there for them to use, so if they want it.
That's awesome. Okay, so more signage to help remind people what to put on packets or submissions, and make sure your font is not too small on your stamps or labels or whatever you're using.
Yeah, it's a nice tip, but I find that people seem to not really enjoy using it, unfortunately.
We found labeling's important, so we do a pre-printed sheet just from an Excel spreadsheet, and we produce 8 labels per paper sheet that fit on the coin envelopes that we use. So that way we don't pack too much of each variety. We do like multiples of 8, and we know what sells most or not. And then because it's printed, it's legible, so we can put a lot of information and instructions on the package, and then we just glue it on there with whatever cheap glue we can find. And that's provided the end user with good information and a good storage medium for the seeds that they can reuse. And it's fairly cost effective to produce these, even though you do need a printer and a little bit of technology. It goes a long ways for clarity and speed of use, basically.
That's awesome. I'd also recommend anytime you're traveling anywhere, a bunch of you probably do this already, but see if that community has a seed library and just pop in if you're able to and see how they do things. It can be so helpful. There's so many different ways to do things, and it can be hard to find the info that will work for your situation, but it's kind of fun. Seed library tourism.
I have to say one thing though, when we do seed packing, we do seed packing bees. So they're organized, seeds is collected ahead of time. And a lot of times, because we know what's coming in, we can pre-print all the labels. So it can be very effective at filling envelopes and getting the stuff ready. So basically, I think it would be difficult to do if everybody was working separately and bringing seeds separately, but as a group, it's fairly effective.
Sounds like you could open a seed company with that level of organization. It's awesome. So I think we need to wrap up in 1 minute or so here. Any last burning contributions?
All right, great. Well, maybe I'm going to start sharing. We just have a few more slides to finish off, some information, follow-up information from Farm Folk City Folk. So thank you so much for all that information, Michelina. And we will just continue.
Yeah, we just included a slide here on our mentorship program, just because well, we're going to be opening up a mentorship program in a couple of days, and looking to not only just for seeds, but potentially other initiatives people have around farming. So keep your eyes posted for that on our website. But also just wanted to draw attention to how rich the learning is when there's a one-on-one kind of pairing. And just we've had such good feedback from all the participants, both mentors and mentees, about how much they've learned and gained from having somebody who knows a lot or learning from somebody who's just learning. It's just a really beautiful way to share information. And then we have some resources here for, oops. So yeah, just again, kind of, if you want to look into a little bit more about kind of distinguishing between locally grown seed versus seed distribution, and like if you want to make that a priority for your seed library, just making sure everything's clearly labeled is really kind of what we think is most important. We do have a listing on our website of BC seed suppliers, but we're trying to actually work on that language a little bit in terms of like BC seed growers versus suppliers, and making sure that people are understanding the difference. And there's just a few resources there for bulk seed or whatever. If you're looking for bulk open pollinated seed, in addition to hopefully what's going to be our well-used interlibrary exchange for sharing seeds between and among seed libraries. Do you want to talk about this, David?
Sure, yeah. So these are I'll just skim through these. This is our contact information, and there's some resources that you can follow up on. We'll share these slides after, so people actually have the links about different seed library resources. For people on the call who are interested in starting a seed library, the Seed Library Network, this top resource, has so much information about everything about starting a seed library. There's really no need for us to replicate it. And they even have an upcoming conference that's starting February 14th that I believe Marie-Eve, who's on this call, is going to be presenting at, all about starting a seed library. So we encourage you to go there. There's a few more links here as well, and we will follow up with maybe potentially another sort of meeting like this that involves breakout rooms so people can connect with mentors in the future for people looking to start a seed library. So we'll follow up with some information, and then this was the last thing we wanted to share was this. This is an application if you learned a lot from Mickey and you feel like you would be able to learn even more through a one-on-one mentorship or potentially in groups, we are open to mentorship applications specifically around engagement with your seed library. So if you're running a seed library and you want a little bit more support and help with any of the subject matter that Mickey was talking about today, this might be a great opportunity. You can scan that right there on your screen if you want. It'll take you to a link. Or again, we'll follow up and share these slides and links with everybody. Um, and there's a short application process. We don't necessarily have enough mentorships for everybody, but hopefully we can accommodate anybody who applies. We'll see. And yeah, this is sort of brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much. We're really thankful. We've had 2 years of funding from the New Horizon for Senior program that's funded this webinar and some of the mentorships and other work we've been doing. And if they've been really helpful. And so many seed libraries are stewarded by really incredible champion seniors in our communities. So thank you so much for all the work that you do for seed security. And yeah, please reach out with any questions. I believe there'll probably be a survey if somebody maybe wants to, if that's somebody can, there's a, oh, Jolene just plopped a survey in the chat. We really appreciate people filling out surveys so that we know if this webinar was useful for you or how to make it better in the future. We would love your feedback. So please click that link if you can and send back your feedback. And thank you so much. We will I'm going to stop recording and we'll see you in the future.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Thanks for coming.